Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the sports stuff video. Today we are talking about my super duper early predictions of the NFL playoffs based on my last video, going over the divisional rankings and who, how the seedings would work out if that is actually how it came true. So if you guys do enjoy, please do like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into the video. So obviously, if you guys, this kind of prerequisite is this was the last rankings of the last video. This was the NFC standings. Eagles, Lions, Cardinals, Buccaneers all host a playoff game, with the Commanders, Vikings, and Panthers being the wild cards. Then here's the AFC playoff standings, with the Ravens, Bills, Texans, and Chargers all hosting a home playoff game, with the Chiefs, Broncos, and Steelers sneaking into the playoffs. So that is a prerequisite to see this video. Okay, let's get into it. So obviously with let's start with the NFC side. The 4-5 matchup: Buccaneers, Commanders. The Commanders, they are a very well-run team, but they are only on year 2 of this rebuild. So can they beat out a team that for the last 6 years has really been built to win right now, right? Whether it was with Tom Brady or with Baker Mayfield, the Buccaneers have been built to win right now. Whether it comes from the coaching staff, the offensive line with Tristan Wirfs heading it, the wide receiver core with Mike Evans heading it, and now with Bucky Irving at running back, solid tight end and Kate Otten. Defensive wise, again, it is, in my opinion, past its prime, but can this team, who is offensively built to win right now, overcome their defense? And for the Commanders, can Jaden Daniels prove sophomore slumps don't exist when I'm around, right? We have a really good offense, okay offensive line that I think played better than they actually were last year, but weapons to really take the next step for Jaden Daniels. Defensively, obviously, lots and lots of veterans on that defense who can play. That's the main point. They're guys who can play. So can the Commanders overtake the Buccaneers? We'll see. Then for the Cardinals and Vikings, Cardinals, again, you guys know I'm very high on the Cardinals this year. If you watched the last video, Kyler Murray, I believe in as a top 10 quarterback. When it comes to their defense, I love all the defensive additions that they did. Key role players and high caliber starters were added, and the Cardinals had a great draft. Can they take on a team in the Minnesota Vikings who, under Kevin O'Connell, have been one of the best underrated teams in the NFL? Multiple winning seasons, multiple playoff appearances, all with different quarterbacks in Kirk Cousins, in Nick Mullins, in Sam Darnold, and now JJ McCarthy. All different quarterbacks. All 4 of them showed success in the system. Can the Cardinals beat the Minnesota Vikings, or can the Vikings keep on and prove that JJ McCarthy is that guy? Then for the Lions Panthers, obviously the Panthers, this is a great year for them. After having multiple seasons of disappointment with Bryce Young, you finally have all the pieces in place. You have a good defense. You have a good offensive line. You have lots of weapons for Bryce Young to throw to. Can Bryce Young shoulder this and go against one of the best teams in the NFL wholeheartedly in the Detroit Lions? They may have lost both coordinators and multiple starters, but when it comes to Detroit Lions, they still have Jared Goff, they still have Dan Campbell, and they still have Aiden Hutchinson. That is a trio to always make the playoffs as long as they're together. In this run game, one of the best run games in the NFL, probably the best run game in the NFL, with defensively as well a great team. The Lions, Panthers, that'd be a really fun matchup. We'll see here in a second who I have winning that and going over why. On the AFC side, Chargers versus Chiefs, a third matchup for this AFC West competition. Chargers taking over the Chiefs spot as the owner of that division. I believe the Chiefs have now won 7 years straight or 8 years straight that division. They've really owned it. But the Chargers with Justin Herbert, Omarion Hampton, and Najee Harris, a rebuilt offensive line in the last 3 years, new weapons, and a rejuvenized defense, now not with high-paid guys, but with lots and lots of young guys with rookie contracts, with Khalil Mack still there. Can they take down the Kansas City Chiefs, who, again, as long as I've really hardcore followed football, have been at the top of their league? But is this the weakest that we've ever seen the Chiefs? We thought the same thing last year or the year before, and every time they always somehow surprise us. When you have Patrick Mahomes and you have Chris Jones and Andy Reid, they are a trio not topped by anyone else. So can the Chargers do it? Then for the Texans Broncos, 2 young bucks coming in trying to prove that they are their salvation's answer for their franchises. The Houston Texans, CJ Stroud, after having a sophomore slump with one of the worst offensive lines in the league, completely rebuilt, new weapons, new running backs, new defensive starters. Can the Houston Texans prove that CJ Stroud is a franchise quarterback in year 3 and make a deep playoff run. The Denver Broncos in year 2 with Bo Nix, can they kind of show the world that Bo Nix was the answer after stellar rookie season where everyone in the draft world was saying Bo Nix is not that guy. He proved it year 1, took him to the playoffs, had one of the best years since 2015. I believe it's the only time they've made the playoffs since their Super Bowl run with Peyton Manning. They've drafted so many quarterbacks. They've signed so many quarterbacks. Is he finally the answer for the Denver Broncos and one of the best defensive in the league? Truly one of the best defenses in the league with Johnny Barron opposite of Patrick Surtain. Great linebackers, great pass rushers, and a good offensive line. Can the Denver Broncos prove, hey, we're back. We're back to being towards the top of the league. We're trying to make sure we stay in this run. And finally, in the wild card round, the Bills versus Steelers. Two hard-hitting, thumping franchises. The Bills, one of the best run games when it comes to quarterback running back duo in the NFL, versus the Steelers, who are kind of going back to that prototypical gunslinger with Aaron Rodgers. But the Bills, their defense rejuvenated again, added more guys in the draft and free agency that are high-end role players and starters. The Steelers, they're kind of betting on a lot of guys past their primes, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, whether it's Darius Slay, whether it's Juan Thornhill. Doesn't matter. The Steelers are saying we're betting on experienced veterans versus young guys. And here's what I think is going to happen in the wild card after going over all those matchups. I think in the NFC side, let's start with the first one. Buccaneers, Commanders. I am going to be taking the Commanders. I think the Commanders offense proved last year that they are a threat to be reckoned with, and the Buccaneers don't have the answer at pass rusher to make Jaden Daniels get uncomfortable. I think this could be a very high-scoring game. This could easily be a 35-42 win Commanders' favor, because I think both teams against those defenses are outmatched, right? Oh, we know that Jaden Daniels on the ground is one of the best running threats, but he'd rather throw the ball. He, after week 4, I think he only had 2 rushing touchdowns the rest of the season. This is a dude who wants to throw the ball. He has Terry McLaurin. He has Noah Brown, one of the better deep threats in the NFL the last few seasons, and Deebo Samuel to be that kind of dump-off threat slant guy. And you still have Zach Ertz and a Austin Eckler, Ja'Cory Mosket as well in the 7th round. And with the Buccaneers, again, I think they're a good team. I think this will be an easy 35-42 type of game where the Buccaneers should just come up short because their defense cannot stop the run and cannot get pressure on Jaden Daniels. Pass rusher makes an offensive lives easier, and they don't have a premier pass rusher. Maybe that changes, right? Maybe they make a trade for Trey Hendrickson, and immediately my stock in the Buccaneers goes up. But at this moment, I think the Washington Commanders outrank the Buccaneers. I think they do just enough to beat them in the wild card. In the next game, Cardinals versus Vikings. I do have the Cardinals being the Vikings. I'm taking all that veteran leadership they added on the defensive side of the ball with Calais Campbell, Josh Sweat, Dalvin Tomlinson. I think that defensive line is going to show up and make JJ McCarthy uncomfortable, kind of how the Buccaneers couldn't do the same for the Washington Commanders. All the Cardinals have to do in this game is get to the quarterback and not let Justin Jefferson go off at 300 yards. And at this point, you're going to have, if everything goes well, you're going to have Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, Trey Hendrickson. You're going to have all 3 receiving threats healthy and ready to go. Can the Cardinals' elite added defense stop those guys? I think they can. And I think JJ McCarthy in his first playoff game, you can't expect him to do everything. And I don't think their run game is good enough to kind of help alleviate that pressure. We saw a lot of Sam Darnold hero balls this year, and I just don't think JJ McCarthy in year 1 is going to be able to connect those to like a year 7 veteran in Sam Darnold. So I do think the Arizona Cardinals do win their first playoff game in the Kyler Murray era. Then at 2-7, Lions versus Panthers. The Panthers try their best, but they're just outmatched by the Lions right now. I think this is a great confidence booster for Bryce Young, showing that, hey, I'm your franchise quarterback. I can get you to the playoffs. Now we can build this momentum for next year. For the Lions, they need to not sleep on the Panthers. I think they could easily win this game, but I do think this is a game where the Lions' run game just thumps the Panthers, and the Panthers' offense can't keep up. The Panthers don't have the running back threats that the Lions do. The Lions can control the time of possession to where Bryce Young is then throwing 40, 50 times in that game. And while I do think they have the wide receiver threats to do that, I don't think they have the run game in the beginning of the game to kind of get ahead by a score or 2. The Lions dominate the time of possession. This could easily be like a 35-21 type of game where the Panthers score a touchdown late to make it into 21. And for the Cardinals-Vikings, I do think that is a close game as well. I think it's more of a 18-27 type of game, low scoring, great defense, and it's whoever has the ball last and scores the last touchdown either wins the game or puts a nail in the coffin. Now on the AFC side of the ball, Chargers versus Chiefs. The Chargers, I just don't think, again, this is their year. Justin Herbert is the oldest guy in that offense, and Khalil Mack's the oldest guy in that defense. I think this is a team that for the next couple of years can be real competitors and maybe get to a Super Bowl. But I do think that year one with Jim Harbaugh, actually year two of Jim Harbaugh, this is a great showing. Winning the division, losing to the Chiefs, yes, that does suck, but this is one of the best teams in NFL history, period. The Kansas City Chiefs dynasty. The Chiefs, I think this is their last true run before a lot of guys start retiring and they have to move off a lot of guys, right? You know that Travis Kelce's toward the end of his line. You know that Chris Jones is towards the end of his line. And you did draft a lot of guys to replace them. But those are two key guys, not only in the locker room, but on the field. I do think this could be the last run. So I think this is where they go. We are giving everything we have on the field. And they do beat the Chargers. But I think the Chargers could easily give up a good game. This could be like a 24-35 game where the Chiefs do win, but the Chargers are right there the entire game. Texans, Broncos. I do have the Texans being the Broncos. I think the defensive additions to the Texans can outmatch the Broncos offense, but the Broncos defense will slow down the Texans offense, right? It's still where this could be like a 20-14 type of game where maybe a Marvin Mims Hail Mary scores for the Broncos and they get an early they get an early RJ Harvey, 20-yard run, but I don't see them offensively beating this Texans defense, and I see this Texans offense at least scoring enough times on this defense of the Broncos defense to win the game. I think CJ Stroud is a better quarterback. I think they have a better run game. I think they have a better wide receiver core. They have at this moment they have a better offensive line. I think the Texans offense is better matched against the Broncos defense than the Broncos offense for the Texans defense. I think, again, the Broncos, they're still the 6th seed. That's 2 years in a row they made the playoffs after missing it for the last 9. So that's still improvement. Like, that's still good for the Broncos franchise. They know that Bo Nix is their guy. 2 for 2 in the playoffs. They know Sean Payton's their guy. And for the Texans, this solidifies that CJ Stroud can play in the playoffs. Now he is what? 2 for 4 getting to the playoffs and winning a playoff game. Good for him. Then Bills Steelers. I think this is an absolute slaughter. I think the Bills slaughter the Steelers. I think this could easily be like a 35-14 game. Like, I think the Bills rest their starters in the fourth quarter. That's how bad I think they would beat them. The Steelers do not have the secondary to stop the Bills, and all Josh Allen has to do is take advantage of him and James Cook being the best quarterback running back duo in the NFL. That he's going to say, hey man, guess what? If I'm not going to hand it off to James or I'm not going to run it, you're biting on it though. So I'm just going to throw a Hail Mary to Khalil Shakir, touchdown. Throw a 35-yard pass to Keon Coleman. Boom, move the sticks. That's the type of game I think could happen. Because again, the Steelers defense, it's very old. And I think a lot of them just past their prime. They're all getting ready to retire, but they want to go to a historic franchise with Aaron Rodgers who wants to try and win a game. And again, I think the Steelers, 7th seed, 10 wins. That's a good season. Honestly disappointing again for the fans because they keep getting one and done in the playoffs. But this is what the Steelers are now. And I think the Bills offense can manhandle the Steelers defense. So that is my prediction for the wild card round. Now for the divisional round, you have Commanders at Philadelphia. That's a rematch again for the NFC East. Lions at Cardinals, right? No, Cardinals at Lions. So the Lions are now hosting another playoff game in Detroit. That's a fun game. Chiefs at Ravens. I think it's the first time that's not Ravens at Chiefs in the playoffs. I think it's the first time it's Chiefs at Ravens. So that's awesome for the Ravens that they can finally get them at home. And Texans at Bills. That's a very fun game. And here's what I think is going to happen. That's what I think. I think in the divisional round, you're going to get probably what everyone's going to predict, right? The 4 heavy hitters in the NFL. The Eagles beat the Commanders. Lions beat the Cardinals. Ravens beat the Chiefs. And Bills beat the Texans. Let's go game for game. Commanders at Eagles in the divisional. Again, I think if we saw in this past season, the Eagles kind of, I'm not going to say demolish the Commanders, but it was very obvious. The Commanders are good, but the Eagles are really good. Like, there's a whole head and shoulders above the Commanders, and the Commanders still put up like 30 points. So I think this could be another slugfest where you have defense versus defense. But the Eagles' defense, again, is maybe top 3 in the league. Commanders are maybe fringe top 10. And offensive wise, it's not even close, right? Yeah, Devontae Smith, AJ Brown, Saquon, and Jalen Hurts. That's unfair compared to Jaden Daniels and his core. It's completely different, right? So I think the Commanders, it could be a high scoring game, but I am going to say the Philadelphia Eagles obviously beat them in the NFC divisional round. Cardinals, Lions. Again, very obvious. Lions will demolish the Cardinals. As much as I love the Cardinals defense, it's very young with a lot of really good key veterans where they need to be. And an offense, Marvin Harrison, Trey Benson, James Conner, Kyler Murray, Trey McBride. Good offense. I just don't think it's enough to beat the Lions. But again, this is a great measuring stick for the Cardinals saying, hey, we went to the divisional round. We lost to the Lions, which we obviously thought we were going to lose to. If we can just put on a pretty good performance, we know Kyler is our guy. Because right now, I think they're building the defense to know that, hey, if Kyler's not the guy, we have a defense that can compete for playoffs. All we need to do is now find another quarterback. And I think the Cardinals this season is a measuring stick for how far they can go with Kyler Murray. And the divisional round, go against the Lions, you lose. If Kyler Murray can put up a 250-yard game and a touchdown or two, I think he'd stay as their quarterback. Lions, again, 2 games in a row. The Panthers and Cardinals, you'd think they're easy matchups, but they're going to be very competitive. I think the Lions, if they don't take them seriously, could lose either one of those games. Then for the Ravens Chiefs, I think this is the year that the Ravens finally get that monkey off their back and they beat the Chiefs. This is the weakest, in my opinion, this is the weakest Chiefs teams of all time, right? We said it the last year or two, but their wide receiver core has gotten even worse. Their offensive line, I like their offensive line, but again, the middle that they lose. Oh my gosh, the guard that went to the Bears. They lost one of their, an all-pro guard. Travis Kelce's another year older, and he was already not good last year. Their running back room is injury-prone or old. Their defense outside of Chris Jones is very young still. Now, a lot of guys are getting towards the end of their rookie contracts, so they couldn't take that next jump. But right now, I'm betting my money on the Ravens with that elite offense, with Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, that great offensive line. That's enough to win any game. And their rejuvenized defense, right? You add in Malachi Starks, you add in Jair Alexander. All you need is just your defense to take a half a step up with that Malachi Starks addition, and you are a number 1 defense. So I think you can have a top 5 offense, a number 1 defense. I think this is the Ravens' year to beat the Chiefs and get to a Super Bowl. As for the Texans Bills, I think this is a game that can actually surprise a lot of people. I think the Texans could easily win this game. If the Bills, again, I'm going with the Bills, obviously. But when it comes to the Bills-Texans, I think the Texans have the firepower on offense to overcome this Bills defense and overwhelm the defense. But the Bills offense, man, I think they make Swiss chicken, a Swiss cheese of this Texans defense. Not it's barbecue chicken Swiss cheese. I think they make Swiss cheese of this Texans defense. The secondary is great for the Texans. It's their front 7 I worry about. They have good guys, but I think Josh Allen and James Cook are different, right? They're different. So I'm going to go Bills over Texans, but I think this would easily go in the Texans' favor if their running back room can control the pace of the game. If it's a Bills have a 65-35 time of possession, the Bills win. But if the Texans can get more of a 50-50, I think the Texans can win. So that is my divisional round. So now we have Lions at Philadelphia for the conference championship and Bills at Ravens for the conference championship. And here's what I think happens. Boom. I think it's Lions-Ravens Super Bowl. So Eagles versus Lions. Listen, I think this is the last true chance the Lions have before they have to really reinvest certain assets, right? Their offensive line they've already had one guy retire. The only guy you really know is going to be here for the next 3, 4, 5 years is Penei Sewell. You did draft Christian Mahogany last year. He's starting. I believe they also drafted Taylor Bortolini, who I believe is on this team. But the offensive line needs to go through a reshuffle of younger guys who are cheaper. And I think this is the last year you're going to see a Taylor Decker at right tackle, right? Running back wise, I don't think David Montgomery is going to be that as good as he was last year and effective for much longer. A lot of miles on him, a lot of damage. Wide receiver core need to go through a reshuffle. You'd lose Jameson Williams in free agency. You obviously have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Isaac Tisla looks pretty good, so hopefully he can show this year that he can take over some of those big snaps. But Jameson Williams won't be here next year. David Montgomery, running backs, hit a clip around 30. He's getting up there. You'll probably have to reshuffle your offensive line. Defensively, the only guy you can truly count on right now is Aiden Hutchinson. How long can we know that the other guys around him will be good, right? We know that um what's the linebacker? I'm blanking on his name. The guy with the long blonde hair. He's had injury issues already, right? This defense needs more investment in it. And I think the Lions, what they could do is reshuffle their offensive line and move that money to defense, right? We know that their secondary, they've invested a lot of draft capital and money into. I like this Lions team, but I think this could be one of the last true years of this iteration of the Lions team that we're going to see. Again, they can still win in 2027, right? They can still win a Super Bowl in 2027. But I think going against the Eagles, I like the Lions more because I think they're fighting for more. The Eagles already won a Super Bowl. Almost every guy on that roster was there last year. They're not as hungry as the Detroit Lions would be, knowing that they're not only proven that they don't need Ben Johnson or Aaron Glenn, but they know that within the next year or two, this team would be completely different, right? Then for the Ravens versus Bills, I think after beating the Chiefs, the Ravens would get in their mindset, oh, we can literally do anything. We can win the Super Bowl this year. And I think going up against the Bills, I think it'd be personal from Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. This could be a 3 touchdown passing, 2 touchdown rushing from each of them, right? I think this could be one of the highest scoring games in NFL playoff history. Ravens, Bills, no Chiefs. Whoever wins goes to the Super Bowl. Ravens haven't been since 2012. The Bills have never won a Super Bowl. The last time they went was 3 times in a row. They lost all 3. I think this will be very personal, but I do think this is the Ravens' best year since 2018 to make it to a Super Bowl. This is the best team they've had. This is the best coaching staff they had. This is the year for them to make it to a Super Bowl. I think the Bills, I'm not gonna say they're retooling, but they made a conceded effort to go young, right? They've signed Josh Allen. They've signed James Cook. They've drafted Keon Coleman. They've extended Khalil Shakir. They've gone young on the offensive line. They've gone young on the defense. They let Von Miller go. They're going obviously very young. They let all their corners and safeties go that were old. It's all young guys. They have more years than the Ravens do, in my opinion. The Ravens have gone very in on this window right now. I think this is the best Ravens team we've had in the last 8 years. I think this is their year to go to the Super Bowl. I think Ravens versus Bills, again, highest scoring game of the year, in my opinion, and could be all time in the NFL playoffs. Ravens do come out, in my opinion. So that means we have a Lions-Ravens Super Bowl. A team that's never won a Super Bowl, never even been to a Super Bowl, versus one of the most storied franchises in the NFL history. Whether it's in Cleveland, then when Art Modell moves them to Baltimore, doesn't matter. They've won 2 Super Bowls since 1999. Can they make it a third? And can the Detroit Lions finally, truly end the stigma of Detroit sucks? Here's what happens. I do have the Detroit Lions winning next year's Super Bowl. If this is how it works out, I think this is the true champion of the NFL. I think Lions versus Ravens. Listen, man, I do believe in karma. I believe in energy. I'm not like a wacko, right? I'm not I'm not like Zen and all that. But I believe that energy in a momentum is so true. I think Lions versus Ravens. The Ravens already did everything they needed to, right? They beat the Chiefs. They got that monkey off their back. They beat the Bills. Lamar Jackson proved he is better than Josh Allen. I truly do believe. They beat their demons, right? But this Lions team, it's done until they win a Super Bowl. They beat the Panthers. Cool. They're a team that shouldn't have been, could not make the playoffs truly. They're just a step 1 of step 4. The Cardinals, a little bit harder competition. They beat the Cardinals. Then the Eagles, they got to do payback, right? The Eagles won the Super Bowl last year. I'm pretty sure the Eagles beat the Lions in the playoffs last year. That's their get back. Now the whole NFL world is split between the Ravens and Lions, because I think both teams everyone would root for, right? But Detroit never winning a Super Bowl. The entirety of Michigan, the Midwest, would be behind the Detroit Lions, right? You would be seeing people saying like this is a chance for that team to never have to pay for anything in Detroit again. Like I don't think you understand the energy and like the real world stuff that would come. And I think that energy would absolutely help the Detroit Lions beat the Ravens, right? The run game. I think this is the best Ravens defense to go against this Lions run game. But guess what? You still have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jameson Williams, Tim Patrick, Sam Laporta. You have so many receiving threats that you have Jair Alexander on someone, Marlon Humphrey, Malachi Starks. Doesn't matter. Everyone can be one-on-one man coverage or zone, and it doesn't matter because they can just hand the ball off to the best running back duo in the NFL. Jared Goff, this last year has really shown me that in big moments he steps up now. It used to be he shriveled, but now he steps up. And again, it's nothing against Baltimore. It really isn't. I would love the Baltimore Ravens to win a Super Bowl because I love Lamar Jackson. The issue is, I think they would take a sort of like deep breath because they beat the Chiefs, they beat the Bills, they were the 1 seed, one of the best years in their franchise history. Like, yes, you want to win a Super Bowl, but to prove like we're finally better than the Chiefs. They're not our kryptonite. We're better than the Bills in their best year. And I think it would be slightly like, okay, yes, we need to win a Super Bowl, but we've also done a lot this year. The Lions, it's Super Bowl or bust every year right now. The Ravens, yes, it is Super Bowl or bust, but I think it's different because especially if they go through this specific playoff matchup, it would be a different energy for them. The Lions, listen, man, I think the Lions would win this matchup if it was this how the playoffs went out. Obviously, this is not how the playoffs are going to play out. If it is, I can't wait. And hey, if it is, future Nick, you're welcome. You're welcome, future Nick. I gave you the $1 for $1.5 million bet that the Lions win the Super Bowl against the Ravens. So if you guys enjoy, please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think is the craziest matchup that I had that is not even close to being real, right? Or who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl this year? Let me know in the comments down below. Again, please like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later. Peace and bye.